Assalamu alaikum. It is Mubaraka again. So, I am coming live to you from my car once again because the day got away from me and I wasn't able to come live earlier. And I am on my way to my client's house actually. So one of the things that I do is I do in-home personal training, and I am on my way to my client's house and I have to be there in like 15 minutes. So I wanted to come on really quick so that I can keep my live streak and talk to you about something of value. So one of the things I have been asking on my different social media, what are some of the things that you want to see in 2020, some of the tips, some of the things that I should put on my YouTube videos. And one of the things that I saw a couple of times and was messaged to me is about how to eat when you're really busy, when you're on the run. Like, what are some quick things that you can snack on and things like that. And I wanted to just give a couple of tips about that. So, number one, if you know that you are on the run and you're having a constant, and you have a busy day, the best thing for you to do is actually to plan the day before. And I know that it sounds so much easier than it actually is. However, if you are following some of my tips about how to have a productive day, how to plan your schedule so that you can get more done, then the night before you will be reviewing your schedule and know that you're going to be super busy. And so you would know at the beginning of the week and then reminded the night before that you need to plan for the day. So once you get in a habit of that, now it sounds difficult and people say, well, I can't do that and I forget and I'm tired and all of these things. But once you get, it's like everything else. Once it becomes a habit, every night at about the same time, you set your alarm, okay, if I go to bed at 10 o'clock, then every night at 9 o'clock, I'm going to review my schedule for the next day. And then you can plan accordingly. So one of those plans that I recommend is plan your meals. So it does not matter if you're doing intermittent fasting or if you're eating 3 times a day. You shouldn't be eating 5 times a day. That's a whole nother video. Cut out the snacking. You don't need to snack during the day. When you are planning your meals, even if you're doing intermittent fasting, you should really be planning out, like, I'm going to eat at this time. Well, if I normally eat at 12 and I know that I have a meeting tomorrow at 12, then I am going to be prepared that I'm not going to be able to eat until 1, or I'm going to eat earlier at 11:30, right? Prepare your time, prepare when you're supposed to be doing it. So the first tip that I have for you, if you're really busy, is to make sure you're planning. Planning is super duper important, not just for your meals, but I really feel like, as I've told you many times, my husband says I need calendars anonymous, but I think that really does keep you on track and it keeps you focused and keeps you towards your goals. It also makes your day much more productive. I think I got more hooked on planning when I had 4 small children and I was trying to homeschool everybody, and I needed to make sure that my days were very structured. I allowed my kids to have some freedom in what they learned and what they did, but I needed for myself to know, okay, if today we're going to have a free day and they're going to be able to explore what they need to explore, that is going to happen between this time and this time, because then I know I have to cook and then I know I have to clean, and then so it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in, whether you're a homeschool mom and you're homeschooling your kids, or if you're a busy professional and you have lots of meetings and responsibility, planning is going to be super important. So what do you include in those plans when you are stuck? You feel like, oh my gosh, I just get stuck and it's unplanned, because that happens sometime, and then I'm just like eating junk food. So if you are in a position where you're just absolutely starving and you have to eat whatever you can get your hands on, the first thing that I want you to reach for is protein. Protein is super important in helping you feel full longer. It's going to help you feel more satisfied, right? And so if you feel satisfied, the satiety of protein is higher than carbs or fat. So if you feel satisfied when you do go and reach for something to eat, you're not just eating because you're so starving, right? All of those hormones aren't thrown out of whack, making you feel like, oh, I need sugar, I need snacks, I need processed food, I need all of this other stuff. start off with making sure you grab some protein. And so when my tip for deciding what is protein, if you aren't sure, protein is anything that had eyes, have eyes, or will have eyes. So think about that for a second. It's an easy way to determine it, right? A steak had eyes, right? People eat whole fish and that has eyes. An egg will have eyes. So think of it in that terms when you think about protein. The second thing that I would tell you to do is I think I would switch it around. The first thing that I would tell you to do is make sure you're hydrated. Make sure that you are drinking water. And if you always feel like you want to snack all the time and you're having cravings, sometimes and very often it is actually you being dehydrated and your body is interpreting it as hunger. So I'm going to reverse. The first thing you should do is grab a drink of water, about 16 ounces, right? So not drinking a gallon in one sitting, about 16 ounces of water. The second thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you grab a source of protein. Because protein is going to do a couple of things. One, it's going to make you feel full longer, right? Number two, it's going to boost your metabolism. A part of your metabolism is the amount of calories that you burn for your digestive system to actually digest the food. And that is higher when it comes to protein because your digestive system works harder to break down protein, particularly animal protein, than it does to break down other macronutrients. That's the second benefit of protein. The third benefit of protein is it is going to balance your hormones. It's going to not send your insulin levels skyrocketing, which is going to be a cascade of other hormones. So those are three right off the bat great benefits of eating protein. So the next thing that I would tell you to do is decide what your fat source is going to be, right? Depending on what protein that you're having, is your fat source going to be the fat that naturally occurs inside of the meat, or are you going to add an avocado to that, or olive oil, or some nuts? And nuts is actually a great source of both protein and protein and fat. Actually, I'm sitting here eating almonds, breaking my 20-hour fast. One of the things that you want to do is make sure that you're not eating low-fat versions of that. So this is a tip that is, of course, very applicable if you are following a ketogenic plan. But even if you're not following a ketogenic plan, don't always go for the low-fat version, because low fat means they're adding sugar, they're adding salt, and so that is going to backfire on you later on. It is better to eat a little bit. So let's take cheese, for example. It's better for you to eat a smaller portion of the full fat version than for you to have a larger portion of the non-fat version or lower fat version. You want to make sure that you are not eating just for a serving size. Well, I always have, a handful of cheese squares, saying that to yourself. You may not need to have a handful of cheese squares. Eat a little bit less, and it's okay to eat less, right? Tell people, if you're wondering, if you're feeling like overwhelmed by all of the things that you could be doing or should be doing in terms of trying to lose weight, the first thing that I would tell you to do, which is the easiest thing, eat less. Like literally, instead of using a huge plate, use a smaller plate. Start off with something as simple as that. So those are some of the tips that I would have for you if you are really busy, if you're trying to stay on track. And I also want to say, today happens to be Monday, but don't pay attention to the days of the week. Stay on course, stay focused towards your goal. Think about your end game, right? What is the end goal? You don't want to take a break every time you get to a weekend, right? Monday's always great, but you want that motivation and that desire to continue beyond Monday so that you can make sure that you're staying consistent. All right, so those are the tips that I have for you today in terms of what do you do when you are super busy and you don't want to be caught out and in a position of being hungry or not having the proper foods around. Particularly, I can speak particularly for the United States of America. There is, if you have access to food, 9 times out of 10, there is some version of that of healthy eating that you will be able to do. I don't care if the only thing within a 10-mile radius is a McDonald's. Even McDonald's has a grilled chicken salad, right? You can have a grilled chicken salad, don't have the dressing, don't have the croutons. There's always a version of healthier that you can choose. All right? So that's my tip for you today. If you have something that you have been itching to ask me, or a side topic you've been itching for me to talk about, make sure that you put it in the comments or send it to me in a DM, because today is the 22nd. We have 8 days left. 8 days left of coming live every day, and then I'm back to you once a week. All right? So I'll talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum.